Yes, this is the When We're Not Hustling after party. And I am Jessie Sage. I'm the host of When We're Not Hustling.
And I'm Emily Foster. I'm the producer of When We're Not Hustling.
Yeah, and I love having Emily as a producer. And we came up with this idea and we just named it just now.
You were all here for it.
Yeah, the after party. This is the after party where we discuss our impressions of the podcast, and it is available only on YouTube. And in episode 3, we interviewed my very beautiful friend Lucy Bloom, who I actually saw in Cleveland yesterday. We
Oh
had
my God.
dinner, and it warms my heart every time I see her. She's just like a glowing love presence.
She's so incredible. Next to
Yeah.
Trip Richards, that's been my biggest fangirl. So
Uh,
like
and
I'm
she's
not trying to rank people, but my heart wants what it wants.
yeah. I hear you. And I have worked with Lucy and she's just amazing. But yeah, so we are actually really close friends, Lucy and I,
Nice.
and have been
You
for some
guys wrote
time.
together, right?
Yeah,
Or she was a
well,
writing
she was my
like
writing coach. And we worked
yes.
together for a year where like I would write and we would talk about the ideas for my book. We wrote 6 of the chapters of my book together. Like I wrote them and she helped me edit. And
Yeah,
she
yeah, yeah.
did for me for my book what you do for me for our show.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And the beautiful thing about that is I am a very lucky person because Trist pays you to help me, and my client paid Lucy to help
Yay,
me.
Trist.
Yeah, I should say that. This show is brought to you by Trist.
Oh
Um,
yeah, also
which
that.
which we
Also like and subscribe.
yeah, yeah. We will get this streamlined at some
We
point. We
totally
will
will.
figure out how to run a show. Um, yeah, so she helped me with my book, and we had weekly hour-long sessions where we talked about ideas and life and line edited my manuscript, which is will come to someday. Someday I will publish this
Yeah,
book. Um,
absolutely you will.
yeah,
Yeah,
but 6
soon
chapters of
I
it are
think.
written, so it has to go somewhere.
Yes.
Yeah, so we worked together for a year, and then we also did some sex work together, but we also just became friends. She is a beautiful, beautiful writer, and my
Agreed.
partner knew her before I did because they're a gender, sexuality, and women's studies professor, and they taught her book in their class, and she came to talk to the class, and that was very
Nice. Okay.
neat. And then we started talking. So there's a lot of ways that I've connected with her over the years. And yeah, I asked her to come on and talk about anarchist organizing because she's been in radicalized leftist spaces since she was a teenager.
Yeah. No, and it was so anarchy is one of those big scary words. And
Hmm.
I personally use it and I see the
Hmm.
responses in people. It's like
Yeah.
Antifa, like, oh yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. I
are
had a
you gonna
client when
are
I
you gonna
said,
wear
"Oh, I have
black
a
and
new
start
episode
shooting?
and it's on anarchist organizing." And he was like, "Isn't that an oxymoron?" And I was like,
Right.
"No, actually."
Right.
People
And
think
it's
it means
another thing that
chaos.
right.
Like,
No,
yeah.
I grew up in those ideas and my my tag when I was a very cool graffiti artist for a little while there
You were a
was no
graffiti artist?
oh, I used to go around and I played with paint for a second, but I would
I
tag
mean, that's cool.
right. No, it's very cool, and that's why I need to be very clear. No, I was not, but I was a young person with some paint, and I thought I was very cool, and I
Okay.
used to tag no peace without anarchy, but in symbols.
Oh,
I thought it was very cool.
wow.
Like,
That's a
but
cool Emily factoid.
that's how I've always
Yeah.
viewed anarchy is that anarchy means even more government. But it's
Yeah.
all done here.
Right.
Everyone is raised and held to a point of accountability. And
Yeah.
I, it's so funny to me when people are like, anarchy, well, that just means chaos, right? And I'm like, well,
Right. Like they think of Lord of the
no.
Flies.
Like,
They're
what? Like,
yeah.
I think we're a little like personally, I think we're a little more chaotic right now than we would be if we were raised in those ideals. Like, I feel like
Right.
I get to be a little lazier with the rules we have. Like,
Yeah. I don't have to clean up the road. Somebody will
right?
come along and do it.
Self accountability is really hard. I've lived in some small communities, let me tell you. Like, But no, I really appreciated a lot of the definitions that she brought, and
Mhm.
um, especially the idea that everyone, because this is one of the biggest arguments against anarchy is, well, how does it work to scale?
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't.
Yeah. Mhm.
Like, things naturally scale like communities would. Like, you just take
Yeah.
care of this, and then
Right.
this becomes a unit, and it interacts with this, and they
Yeah.
trade needs, and that just kind of, and
Right.
it's, again, armchair philosophy. It's very easy for me to sit in my tiny little sit home with my
Yeah.
tiny little family where we can be anarchists, but are
Yeah.
also benevolent dictators with kids sometimes,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I, I don't know what would or wouldn't work, but
Right.
I do know that anarchy is not chaos. And the more
Right. Mhm.
anarchist societies that I have lived in, I have to work much harder
Yeah.
for myself and for others. It's much
Yeah.
more rewarding,
Right.
but it's much more structured. Like,
Mm,
it's so
mhm.
funny to me. Like,
Yeah. Well, I think that one of the things that we lose, I mean, we were talking when we were talking about when in our last after party, I'm like trying to get used to this word now. In our last after
right?
party, we were talking about about cities, and one of the,
Right.
sociologists will say that one of the products of industrialization and of cities, and I say this as somebody who's always lived in cities and who doesn't actually want to move to a rural area, but like one of the
Sure.
byproducts of that is that um there are too many people for you to look at everybody and think neighbor. You have to filter
Right.
out so
Right.
many people that you encounter as like not relevant, not relevant, not relevant, not relevant. And, that
Interesting.
sounds like kind of dehumanizing, but the fact of the matter is you can't interact. There's limits in how many people you can interact
Coming
with.
from small towns, it sounds so nice. It sounds so, I don't want to be rude to anyone, but like, the idea of going to the grocery store and not having to talk to everyone. Like,
The weird thing about this is, so I grew up in San Diego and then in the Bay Area. I was there for a while and and when I moved to Pittsburgh in 2006, Pittsburgh it's a city, but it's very neighborhoody. It's like
okay.
a collection of all these small neighborhoods. And I went to the grocery store after living here for 2 weeks maybe and ran into two people that I had met. And I know like no people in Pittsburgh, but the two people that I know were at the grocery store. And I
Right.
was like, and I was 28 years old. And I was like, I have not one time in 28 years run into anyone that I know at any
Wow.
grocery store. So that is so weird to
You
me.
were 28, but for the first time that you ran into someone you knew at the grocery store.
Yeah. Yeah. But
On behalf
California's
of people who grew up in small towns, may I just say,
Yeah, and it was
everyone,
weird. I was like, you're not
everyone
allowed
at the
to be
grocery
anonymous
store.
here. There's no anonymity here.
Right. Oh,
And
that's so funny.
yeah, and so I think that it's just and California is a transient place too, so you don't
Sure.
like it that impacts how much effort you put into the people that are passing through your life, and
Right.
it's so funny. So I'm gonna forget his name right now, but there's so on Tik my I don't have a TikTok. On my Reels, Instagram or Facebook or whatever that I like scroll through, I've curated like all stand-up comedy because I like stand-up comedy.
Nice.
And
Yeah.
there's this guy who I think his name is Josh Johnson or something like that. I don't know. He's a black guy. He probably looks like he's around 30. He might be older than that, but he's very funny to me. And he moved to New York and he has kind of like a baby face. And he's like, I think I have a face that's too nice for New York because
Oh,
because somehow people come up and are talking to me and I haven't figured out how to do the city thing yet and it's overwhelming. People are
he hasn't
like,
worked on his
"Why are you
resting.
smiling at me?" And I thought that that was funny because
That's
there is like a
sweet.
different way of relating, and I think
Yeah.
that kind of what we're talking about is once like the idea of scaling is actually antithetical to the idea of
Yes.
anarchy in that way.
Yes. Yeah. That this idea is forming as you're talking. But yeah, I got that feedback the first time I went to San Francisco from Hawaii. Like,
Hmm.
who are you smiling at? Why are you smiling at everybody? But all I'd ever known was you're supposed to look at everyone in your community and acknowledge them and welcome them and also sort of clock them, like,
Yeah.
like pay attention to like what's going on, not in a
Yeah.
suspicious way, but like, this is my job. Everyone does this. We all look
Yeah.
out for each other. So like, of course I have to look at everyone. And I'm not gonna
Yeah.
like mean mug them because these are my people. I have to see them every day of my life.
Yeah.
Like, like of course I'm gonna smile at them. Like,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
that like, yeah, I think that that is sort of part of it, right? That's what
Hmm.
anarchy is like. It's knowing everyone in your neighborhood and
Right.
what they might need and what they might have, and not
Yeah.
in a calculating way, but like this is literally just how communities work. We have
Right.
only so much fresh berries. Let's make sure they all get eaten before they're gone, to use a
Yeah.
very basic
Yeah.
hunter-gatherer analogy. But
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't think that true anarchy can scale, because
Right.
how can I help manage a neighborhood if I don't know who everyone is and what they need? Like,
Right. And I really liked the examples that Lucy gave too when she started talking about like environmental policy. Well, like
yeah,
environmental policy doesn't make sense at scale because you have to know the community and what resources they need and what resources
yes.
they use and how it's impacting the land. And the only people that know the land are the people that
Or the
live on
people
the
who are
land.
there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
And so people
California is
living
constantly
in
in drought. There's no drought in Pennsylvania. Like,
no.
so like
So
when my daughter comes
you
to
can't
visit, her water
enact a like
conservation efforts don't make a lot of sense here. But
right. I know. And I
like that,
remember when I was growing up, because I grew up in Southern California where like I love do you read Joan Didion?
I
Have you read
don't
any of her
yet.
work? Okay.
Oh,
Anyways, she's kind of bi-coastal, like New York
okay.
and California and mostly like LA. And was her husband was a writer too. And she's like a literary critic, writer, feminist in the 20th century. I think she's still alive. But one of the things that she did that I thought was so interesting is wrote books about being from California and what it's like to be from California and how, what a weird experience that is. And I love that because I grew up thinking that like I had no roots and no like
Right.
culture. And it
Right.
struck me in reading Joan Didion that like California, that no rootedness is California's
That
culture.
is a culture.
Yeah,
Yes.
that
Yes.
it's the people who went and settled in California were the people who fled, the people who like weren't connected to things, the people
Yeah.
who are like, I'll just do it myself, you know? And like
Yeah.
that is like the ethos of California. But one of the she wrote painstakingly on like in painstaking detail, I would say, which seems pretty boring. And it can be at times, but it's also so interesting when taken at whole about the water irrigation system in California, because California should not be what it is.
No.
Like,
No. No, I
and
wrote a song about it. Like, we like transported water there, like
yeah,
on trains.
yes,
We put water on trains to build in the desert. Like,
yeah.
everyone's like, California, the garden state. It's like the
What?
hanging gardens of Babylon, maybe. Like, it was an impossibility. It's an
Well, the
engineering
funny
feat,
thing is that like when people think of California, they think of the coast and the beaches, which are
right?
lovely, but everything else is brown unless you have a sprinkler system. And and I remember growing up being like, you can only like turn the water off when you're brushing your teeth. You
Yeah.
don't just let it run. Like
No.
you have to turn it
Still,
off.
I
Like
can't do that.
I
Like,
but here we live in
I grew up with like, if it's yellow, let it mellow. Out here, that's
yeah.
gross. People are
Yeah.
like, what are you doing? You're like,
Yeah,
so
but so if you have the way
I
in
take
which
that
we're
back. People with wells do understand.
okay, yeah,
There are people, there's a lot of people with wells, and they're like, yes.
yeah. But yeah, but I come here and if I were to say something like that, people would think it's weird. There is no shortage of
Right.
water here. But
No,
like I
it's
grew up like there's a drought, we have no water. We have to take, there was stipulations for how long your showers were allowed to be
yes,
and things like that. And we're looking now and it's getting worse and there's fires every year because everything is so dry. And
so bad.
so
Yeah.
I think that we're rambling, but I think that the interesting thing about this is that like you can't have um like environmental governances in Pennsylvania that would make sense in California.
Not at all. Like at all. Can you
Yeah.
imagine? Like people talking about the concerns that exist here environmentally compare and then trying to apply that. Like
No, because
it
also we
doesn't
don't
make
have a
any
bunch of
sense at
fly
all.
ash in our air in California
Right.
because
Right.
yeah, we have different
Hawaii has
problems.
zero coal problems.
Yeah.
Not a single one. And I guarantee you they have environmental concerns that are very big deals. Wouldn't
Right.
make any sense here.
Yeah.
Like,
Right. Right.
yeah. I mean, even if you just, I think that's a great, great place for entry level, like,
Yeah.
well, what if anarchy wasn't chaos? What is it? Well, it's governing at a very, very local level, like
Yeah.
starting with the human being governing themselves and
Right.
then their relationships and then their community and doing that in a way that makes sense for the individual and the individual communities. Like,
Yeah.
and I think that yeah, anyone who's had a little bit of curiosity sparked, let that be your entry
Yeah.
level.
Yeah.
If it wasn't chaos, what would it be? Maybe it
Yeah.
would be personal government.
Yeah. Maybe it would be taking food to your neighbors when they're down. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Or
sharing
if you're
the
living in a place with a drought, turning the water off when you're brushing your teeth. Things that don't make sense
exactly.
in places where they don't have that problem. Yeah.
Yeah. If you're living in Pennsylvania, take a nice long bath today. If you're in California, maybe don't.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe go out in the sun if you're in California, which we don't get to
Yeah,
do.
which
So,
we don't, everyone gets we'll take our pill vitamin D.
yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
No, I thought it was really interesting and I think that Lucy did a great job of talking about why not scaling is not a problem.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why would you want to?
Yeah, right.
That's silly. Let's
Yeah.
just let them take care of the way things work there.
Right. How
Yeah,
would we know what you're supposed to be doing in Wyoming?
right.
I've never even been to Wyoming. I don't know what their problems are.
I don't know.
I
Isn't it cold or wet? I don't
don't know. I think
know.
there's moose there or something.
I'm still trying to learn Pennsylvania. I don't
Yeah.
know.
I don't know either. I mean, I actually want to go there. I think it would be interesting, but I don't know the first thing about
Yeah,
it. So,
definitely.
yeah. All
Well,
right. That's a good
that
place
feels
to
like a good
end.
place to stop.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, thank you
Don't forget to
for,
like and subscribe.
mhm. Yeah. Rate us on, oh, this is YouTube. You can leave us messages. Tell us what you
Yeah,
think
we
of,
can get
yeah,
that's the like part. Yeah, we can get likes here.
and comments and
And
subscription.
comments. We love comments.
Yeah. Okay.
Um, and also our podcast is brought to you by Assembly 4,
Yeah.
which is super awesome. And they're also the home of Tris.link, which is a great place to check things out if you want to.
Yeah. Great. You are killing it.